revealing a sword the relic of this devil's den. The cause of the brother's death, the sword glows red with an evil aura. The text below it states that only those with Baskerville's blood can wield Beelzebub. He was shocked to find that the sword was Beelzebub. As he stands in front of it, he recalls reading a picture book during his childhood about the gluttonous fly. Beelzebub, who was an unprecedented great monster, had invaded the lands in the old legends as part of the devil's holy constellation called the Seven Calamities to stand up against the Seven Calamities. The heads of each of the seven families took one each. The first patriarch of the Baskerville fought against Beelzebub. Remnants of Beelzebub were stored in the lands of the Baskerville. Its demonic energy was said to lure monsters, an old legend that no one believes now, but the legend was true, as the sword was taken by the demon clans, resulting in countless deaths among the humans on the battlefield. VQ grabs the sword in excitement, saying that it won't happen again as the sword was now his, as he holds on to the sword. It lets out a ferocious energy as if it was howling. He grunts loudly as the sword seems to be absorbed by his hand. The sword places itself into the MC hand before appearing as a blade from his arm. He mentions that he was lucky to have a blade made from a devil's holy constellation, as the blade exudes a murderous aura. His red eyes glow similar to the blade as he raises it to his face. Wondering how much stronger he'll be in this life, looking around, he realizes that there was nothing else for him to take and prepares to leave. But he feels something was wrong with his body. He stumbles onto the ground, wondering what was wrong. Was he dizzy? No, he was hungry. The blade makes noise, and the MC wonders if it wants to eat something. He leaves the dungeon holding his stomach in hunger. Hunger was ringing inside his stomach, noting that his sense of smell had improved as he smelled something delicious. The sword pulls him along, much to his surprise, wondering if there was something to eat in the direction it was pulling him to. He reaches the corpse of the hellhound he had killed before the blade shoots out a tube into the corpse. As it absorbs the blood, the MC feels his inside were getting back to normal, guessing he was starving for a long time. He hoped that the mountain's dried condition was not due to the sword's hunger and wondered how long it takes to feed it. Beelzebub makes a happy sound as it had eat well and has absorbed the hellhound's ability hemorrhage. Vikia wonders if this was Beelzebub's inherent ability. Beelzebub was the glutton of files, and was said to possess the power to absorb its enemies' skills as its own, since its absorption amount was close to infinite. Many people lost their abilities and became obsolete. But due to its hazard, Bakir could absorb 3 skills. Only for now he describes the Hellhound's ability as a skill that constantly pumps out the blood of its opponent even through its smallest wounds, realizing he could steal abilities. He looks at the Cerberus corpse. The yells above grows excited at the thought of feeding on it. Vikir is alarmed and asks it to wait. He explains to it that it can't eat all of it as if it was too damaged. He couldn't explain it during the autopsy. He thinks silently as Beelzebub makes constant noises as it consumes the corpse. He slaps Beelzebub, saying he had enough. Beelzebub was upset, but had gotten 2 new skills. He had even absorbed the power of the sewer rat underneath the Cerberus. The Q picks up the rat. Happy that he had absorbed many powerful skills this time, he decides to wait at the practical exam site. As he was done preparing the monster, the young hounds had gathered back together, each covered in various injuries. They would receive a shield sword or necklace as their reward based on the parts produced from the monsters they hunted during the practical exam. As monster parts are laid on the table, the senior members are astonished at what the MC had hunted. Hugo is alarmed to hear the news. Barrymore reports that the MC during the practical exam had accidentally crossed over to the restricted area, allowing him to hunt in a plus Cerberus. He further reports that it was wounded by the barbarian clan, and that the MC had applied poison to his wooden spear, as Hugo mentions that a Cerberus was something that even the family's guardians would avoid. Hugo further asks what kind of poison could kill a Cerberus, and where Vikir had gotten it. Barrymore mentions that the report did not include such details, and wanted to ask the MC, but the MC had returned to the dorm as he was too tired. Hugo compliments the MC, saying he was so sly already, and that information was power, and that power is your worth. Barrymore was shocked that a master named Van and not lower law was this talented. Hugo replies that he was unlike the previous leaders. He didn't discriminate against a hound based on its bloodline when raising them, as long as it had enough talent and spite, adding on that there were mutts that came from the royal bloodlines, asking if Barrymore understood him. Barrymore is concerned as he ponders whether Hugo was thinking about his second son, who was preparing for isolation training, as he apologizes to Hugo. Hugo says it's all right and asks for the MC to be summoned. The Q stands in front of them with a smile on his face. Hugo asks how he caught the Cerberus during the exam. Vakir says that he placed the chocolate on his wooden spear, saying that it was lethal to canine monsters. Hugo asks if that was the reason why he asked for chocolate before, and the MC says yes. Barrymore thought to himself, if this is how fathers and sons usually talk to one another, as they didn't greet each other. Hugo further questions Bakir on why he did not respond, and the butler asked him about the hunt. He wasn't my master of AC, replied. Who is your master? Hugo asks the master of the clan. Since he belonged to the clan vacuum response, Hugo is happy with the reply. He rewards the MC with the corpse of the monster and grants him a wish. The MC wishes to be granted access to the 10,000 Epistle Library. The 10,000 Epistle Library was one of the largest libraries in the Empire and resided deep within the heart of the Baskerville clan. Hugo ponders, asking if he knew that only the patriarch and second-in-command, along with their direct descendants, were allowed to enter. Victor says that if it was not permitted, he would give up on it, thinking that he needs to sneak in. Instead, Hugo grants him access, much to the MC's surprise. He asks him to read the 6th technique of the family, located within the 6th restricted zone, deep inside the library, is stunned, as he was just given permission to learn a technique that an illegitimate child was not allowed to, recalling that Hugo's current level was the 7th technique, and that in his past life Hugo had reached the knife, remembering the discrimination he faced in his past life. PQ promises that in this life he will surpass Hugo, as he will obtain the greatest essence of basketball, a textbook containing the teachings of the first patriarch who subjugated the 7 great disasters. Hugo stares at the cure, looking forwards to his progress, and wishes him luck. He bows his head, thanking Hugo and saying he'll surpass his expectations. 2 guards stand in front of a large door. The MC enters the room leading to the library. He stands there, saying it was the first time he came in person. He searches through the books, seeing the names of the books that he had wanted to learn in his past life, knowing that any illegitimate child could not learn any of the advanced techniques to ensure that they do not bare their teeth towards their master. This was a defense mechanism the basketball family had created. A book is locked with a chain, and he wonders if this was the book. Vikia takes out a key, not believing that Hugo would offer him the book on the 6th technique, an opportunity that was never given in his previous life. As he turns the key in the lock, he wonders if Hugo thought that he couldn't memorize the technique in a day as he reads the book. The cure recalls that due to his past life, he had memorized the theory behind the 1st to 4th techniques, till he was sick of it. He did it so that he could deduce and speculate the theory behind. He returns to the guards, who were surprised to see him come out of the library already. They asked him if he had left something outside, and that they were getting it for him, as well as that there were more books about swordsmanship deep within the library. He tells them that he had finished what he came here for. The guard asks if he wants to stay longer, but he declines and wants to read other books, and that they should do what they need to do in the meantime. As the Q walks to the spiral staircase, the guards whisper to each other, saying that the place he was going to only had miscellaneous books, and that if they were the MC, they would be busy reading the books deep within the library. They wonder if the MC didn't know the worth of the books, but the MC chooses to leave them to their thoughts, knowing that they did not realize the true value of the books. In the miscellaneous section, he reaches the next floor and looks around the books, noticing one that stood out. He found it, the book called The Lurking Ambush. Vakir is happy to find it. He opens it to see a ripped page, and that due to it, it became a useless miscellaneous book. He grins widely, as he was the only one that knew its true worth. Recalling a memory from before his regression, the Q belonged to a squad that had found a strange relic in the dungeon that was on the border of the Laruji Tylon War Mountain. It contained a page from a swordsmanship book. A single ripped page written with Baskerville handwriting. Only Hugo found this remarkable, ordering everyone to search through the whole library to find the book that matched the page. The book was a lurking ambush. The same one that the MC was holding. The book contained the 10th technique that the ancestors had written. Further, recalling that Hugo had gone crazy for the 10th technique and released the hounds to find the remaining 6 pages that contained the technique, Hugo realized that the pages were hidden in the 7 great families, declaring war on them and sending hounds to those that refused. After sacrificing many hounds, all pages were given to Hugo. The reward for doing so was Vacu's death. Grew angry as he recalled those unpleasant memories as he holds the book, knowing that once Hugo achieved the 9th technique, it resulted in piles of hound corpses and blood. He makes sure that it won't happen in this life. The pages that Hugo got were all given by Vakir, allowing him to remember the content that was written on each page, and that the reason he could not go past the 4th technique was the lack of access to the original book. Vikia reads the book, realizing that without the other pages, the book made no sense. But the moment you had all the pages, the book would turn into a masterpiece. Night turns to day as Vakir immerses himself. In reading the book, he closes the book, having read enough, wondering if he had read the whole day. But thanks to that, he was able to memorize the book's contents from start to finish. He looks around and does not feel the presence of the guardian knights. He closes his eyes and imagines a figure standing before him. His arm glows with a red aura. He opens his eyes and strikes the figure before him, using the 1st technique, continuing the strikes and moving on from the 1st to the 2nd technique and more. He grits his teeth as he thinks of his past self as pathetic. He worked hard to reach the highest level of graduator aura, but was unsuitable to learn a proper sword technique, making the direct bloodline hostile to him. The main reason was that he was an illegitimate child. He dashes to the side of the figure once again, asking if they thought he would live the same way again. As he approaches the figure, it transforms into the older version of Hugo. The MC slices Hugo relentlessly and exits the imaginary space, breathing hard. He looks at his hand, thinking he was still weak, and if he actually drew out the 5th tooth, he clenches both his fists in victory at the feat he had just done, and felt happy to the point that he almost cried. He continues to look around, wondering if a sword was nearby to test the 5th technique again.